of Celestial Singles Fellowship and the leader of the Shepherd Lives Matter campaign. That brings us to the topic of the day: Shepherds' Lives Matter.
Mhm.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome, sir. We're glad to have you on the
Thank you,
show.
Eniko. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes the beginning of our discussion can be quite climactic, and I hope you people don't mind, and I hope you don't mind too,
No,
sir.
no, 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 no.
Yeah, during the saga of the quagmire that was called COVID-19, there were a few things that happened whereby we found out that other churches were uh, actively involved in the welfare of their ministers and their pastors. And, it was only expected that our church too would have, would respond, to the crisis by taking care of our ministers and the shepherds in our church. And, at some point during the crisis, I heard that the church donated some money to the government of the state of Ogun. I think to the tune of 20 million naira, and it raised a lot of dust, and there were certain uproars here and there that the church has neglected the shepherds, but yet the church is donating some money to the Ogun State government, probably because there were other churches who were doing that too. How true are the specifics of what I just said, and what was the reaction of both the members of the church and the shepherds? How did they sail through this crisis?
Thank you, Joseph. The birth of Shepherd Lives Matter, the word, the campaign itself
Beautiful
came.
cap, by the way, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Came in 2020 during the time of this crisis, of COVID crisis, where we saw a publication, and it was genuine because it came from the church's official Facebook account, that we should go to a particular website and input our names, our registration numbers, and our account details, that money were going to be dispensed to shepherds to relieve them during this time, and which we did. In fact, there are some provinces that their shepherds had to pay the province head to help them fill this form and a whole lot of that. But to our surprises, nothing came in, and we later heard that it was a fraction in the same office that made this announcement, that the pastor was not aware, and a whole lot of that. And it got to me personally and to a few other of my colleagues, and we took it up, and we were so gassed up that we started this Shepherd Lives Matters campaign, that the authority should look for something. At least there are some shepherds, there are some parishes that are in rural areas that there are no provisions for shepherds. There are shepherds that has less than 10 members in their churches. There are churches that are not well built. There are churches that are still built with bamboo. How do you want these people to survive? So we started raising foodstuffs, and we started going to some places to donate to them.
All right, you mentioned something that is really worthy of note. There are that's the stratification of church size and shepherds in these respective churches. We know that there are big cathedrals, churches that have a lot of members who are well to do, and churches that are thriving when it comes to numbers. Whereas there are other churches that have a very minuscule number of members,
Congregation.
and we know that in certain churches there are more lacks, in others there is quite an abundance, and this is a dichotomy that cannot be erased completely. I am also a son of a shepherd, so I firsthand I witnessed some of these things. We were quite fortunate, but there are a lot of shepherds who cannot boast of the same, would I say, luck of comfortability, of availability of uh, resources. Now, there is a scheme that I know, or there is a structure on ground, a system of maybe compensation for shepherds that has been on ground even before I was born, probably during the era of the pastor founder, whereby a
The
portion of
system was to divide
yes, if you can give us more light on that,
what
sir.
you make in a month.
Yes,
to three.
into three. Yes,
Yeah, you give one to the headquarter.
yes,
The one goes to the church purse.
yes,
And one goes to the shepherd and its workers.
and his workers, which means that the
Yes.
shepherd does not only share 1/3 alone.
No, he shares with everyone.
Now, in a church that has a return of, let's say, hypothetically speaking, 1 million naira, and another church that barely makes 20,000 naira in a month. Now, this disparity, how do we account for it? Because this topic is shepherds' lives matter. And if a shepherd comes back home after he must have remitted it to third with just 3,000 naira, how do we naturally expect such a shepherd to survive?
Thank you, Joseph. This is really a very thing that should concern everyone. And just like you said, some churches are well fortunate. Some churches pay returns to the tune of 1 million, 2 million per month, while some churches, for example, makes. I have a church that makes 7,000, 8,000 in a Sunday.
7,000 naira or
Yes,
dollars?
on a naira on a Sunday service.
And there is a shepherd, there's a presiding shepherd,
And
there.
there's a shepherd that has workers. Okay, let me use an
Wow.
example. My own church. Sometimes we don't make up to 20,000 naira in a Sunday.
Let me ask you a direct question. Are
Yeah.
you a full-time?
I've been a full-time
Minister.
shepherd for 12 years now. A shepherd in charge
Wow.
of a church for 12 years now.
All right. So you were saying that shepherds make some shepherds make 1 million, some 7,000. Is it the duty of the church to help the shepherd grow his parish, or should the shepherd be left alone to just endure whatever as much evangelism as he can do? It's really not
as
it's
part
really
of
not the fault of the church that
his
the
responsibility of the
audience is not
cross?
growing. So is it the shepherd's cross to try to populate his own parish or expand, or what do you
Thank
think?
you, Inko.
Yeah.
In this our generation, there are churches that people will prefer to go to.
Okay.
The generation we are into believes in churches that have all the glamours, the POP churches, the big instrument churches.
Aesthetics.
Yeah, aesthetics,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, people wants to go to churches that have everything.
Right.
Nobody wants to pay owe kole, like, so when you are growing a parish of little parish with whatever thing you have, and somebody just comes from London, from UK, and build a parish next to you that has everything already.
Sir, don't you
And it's
think-
even giving breakfast to people who comes to church on Sunday.
All right. So don't you think it's up to the shepherd to be able to evangelize? As we have many titles, senior
Just
shepherd evangelist.
just like I told you now,
Okay.
the evangelism our generation believes in involves the things they see.
Money.
The things they see, the opportunities. They
The
believe in
open
shepherd.
Not necessarily the
They
money,
believe
connections and the
facades.
They
influence.
believe, they believe the
Yes.
shepherd that
Glamour.
comes from London
Yes.
can take their child to
or
London
a
one day.
new, very
Very
beautiful
correct.
edifice or a cathedral just
we
open.
are talking as if we are not even aware that this generation doesn't even they don't want to hear much of Jesus Christ. They want to go to a place where they can pump up, they can, in places where on their harvest day they can take all necessary alcohols and a whole lot of things.
Okay.
Now, when you speak, I've grown to a level that even when you speak too much of the gospel of Christ, people will feel offended and probably start leaving your church.
When you speak too
I've
much
seen
of the
people who will
gospel,
come and meet you like, Olusho, iwasu te se yen, emi le fi bawi.
should that not be the crux of everything?
Yeah, it should be. But
Okay.
just like I told you, there are churches that have bent the gospel
To
so
suit.
to suit the members that are
And
coming.
to quote unquote grow the church.
Yes, to grow the
Yes.
church.
Very
They've
correct.
spared the rod. Their pulpit is now a place of entertainment, motivational quotes, not the
Yeah.
gospel anymore.
Yeah.
So, people tend to go to that place, because it's beautiful, it's fine. So now the shepherd is evangelizing. Now evangelism even involves money.
Correct.
I mean, how do you evangelize with it without a good instrument? Even the media will not repost you if your church is not fine.
All right. So you said now that evangelism requires money. Do you think a shepherd's sole source of income should be the church? Do you think a shepherd shouldn't have other streams of income to fund the gospel of
Now,
Christ?
before we go there, because I
Okay.
wouldn't want us to jump the gun in this
Okay.
discussion, there is a train of thought that we have left unattended. Um, you already spoke about how the incident of 2020 galvanized shepherds' lives matter and all that. Now, this is my question: the current structure on ground for the compensation, or is it the word remuneration, of shepherds, is it effective in our day and our time? Splitting the earnings of the church or the income into three, taking part to K2, taking part here, and sharing one third amongst. Is it an effective? Is it an efficacious um, strategy in today's world?
Thank you, Joseph. I'd love to explain this very well.
Okay, sir.
During the days of our fathers, splitting returns to three, no matter how small your church is, used to be very effective. Why? Because members used to come with all sort of thanksgivings. When the money is not enough, the shepherd goes back to Thanksgiving items like the food they used, the everything they brought for Thanksgiving, like the food, the whatever it is. It was enough because the money you need as a shepherd to send your child to school
Mm.
is not as much as the money you need now
Mm.
to send your child to school.
Mm.
So after splitting to three, after splitting your returns to three, whatever comes to you and your workers are still enough with the Thanksgiving, no matter how small it is.
And you know, this is a
Okay.
peculiarity in Celestial Church of Christ. I have not seen any other parish where people bring Thanksgiving items. Other churches do Thanksgiving, but you know, people actually bringing forth Thanksgiving items like you know, domestic appliances,
Bread,
materials that the shepherd can use, like
eggs,
bread, egg,
food,
food,
yeah.
soaps, and all those things.
Mm.
Now, comparing our Celestial of now today to that of old, would you say that this particular practice has improved or it has eroded with time?
Bringing food items to church, Celestial Church of Christ typifies the Israelites, where you bring things, livestock, things of your farm produce, and
Yes.
a whole lot of things to church. So, Thanksgiving in Celestial Church of Christ is not just you giving thanks for what God has done for you.
Yes.
A lot of people bring things to ask for what they want from God.
Okay.
Right.
Like, I bring food to the house of God because I want something to happen for me. So Thanksgiving most times is a way of a prayer point.
Yes.
So
Okay.
now back to what we're saying, splitting into three. It used to work back then.
Mm.
But now, number one, we have more shepherds. We have more workers in the church. We have more parishes. Members are split. Now, when you make your 20,000 naira per Sunday, and at the end of the month you have 60,000 naira, you remit one to the headquarters, you put one on the church account, one goes to you. It has to be you and your workers in church.
Can you clarify the difference between the headquarters and the church?
The headquarters is the administration, the K2, the Eleko, whichever pastor you
And then
you
the
are
church
under.
is the church.
Yeah,
the
the
parish.
church is the parish,
The
like the
parish.
church
Yes.
account.
Yes.
Okay.
Like probably the church has one need. They needed to buy this, they needed to buy that. They remove from
Direct
that.
question, sir.
Yes.
Do you think our church is inundated with ministers? Do we have too many ministers catering for the flock that we have? Because we churn out ministers from the seminary, we churn out ministers from training, and then we have to account for those who don't even think that they need training. Those ones are there. So do you think that we have too many ministers to go around?
Definitely we do. Because 10 years ago when I got registered, I was given 15,000 something. That was my registration number. That means as of 10 years ago, there were 15,000 registered shepherd.
Mm.
In
Celestial
the whole
of Christ.
church as
The
a
whole
whole.
church.
In Celestial Church of Christ as a whole,
Okay.
there were 15,000 registered shepherds.
So you mean there
Now,
are shepherds that
10
are not
years
registered?
ago, yeah, there are shepherds
course,
that are not
of
registered.
course.
There are
Okay.
shepherds in ministry for the past 40 years that are not even registered.
They don't even care.
Definitely, I've met some of them. Now,
Okay.
10 years down the track, let's talk about 40 to 50,000 in numbers. So definitely, and anybody can just wake up in their room now just create a ministry on their WhatsApp, add people, and say they want to do a program. So now we have more programs in Celestial Church of Christ. We have more ministers than even members. Everybody just breeds ministries now, which I think the authority or whatever body should look into because it's getting so tiring.
Okay, sir. Before we go on a short break, I would like to ask you. You have told us what brought about the SLM movement, the Shepherd Lives Matters. The 2020 grant that was promised.
Yes.
Was that promise met?
No, the promise was not met because.
Now, please, can you briefly tell us about the promise, how it came about, and what ensued afterwards?
The promise was made online. It was everywhere. We could still check for it. The proofs.
Was it confirmed
what
that
was
it
the
was
promise?
from the pastor?
It was because it was
Okay.
posted with the church's official page.
Now, for the sake of our viewers, what was the promise and what gave birth to it?
The promise was they called it Shepherd's COVID palliatives.
Okay.
And they told us to go to a certain website to fill the form, our name, our registration number, our parish, and our account numbers that a certain money is going to be portioned into the account, which everybody did. And
You mean Shepherds submitted their details?
Shepherds submitted their details. I did. I did for my father was still alive then. I did for my father and a whole lot of people.
Okay.
So after then, we waited, and we saw that money was given to Ogun State government, and we were waiting. And they told us, because I had a conversation with one of Papa's son, who used to be a part of the administration. He told us that the pastor was not aware of the announcement. And I said, but it was posted by the church, and they said truly it was posted from the pastor's office, but the pastor was not aware.
How come something gets posted from the pastor's office
and
without
the
the consent or the pastor being in the know?
We've seen that lately. We've seen a lot of press release. Somebody would just wake up, do a press release, and at the end of the day, the pastor's office will come out and debunk it that it is not so.
Okay, so sorry, direct question before we go on the break. Didn't you think it was a wiser decision to have catered for lives that were dying?
Well, I think even without COVID, when a shepherd dies, the money that goes to your family is 40,000 naira.
That's a registered shepherd.
That's even a registered shepherd. That is even if you know somebody at the office.
I was about to ask that. Is there a bureaucratic bottleneck? I hope you don't have to go to
Yes, you have to.
And
the money that was given to me when my father died, they told us from the office that the province had to contribute that money to us. It wasn't directly from the office.
That's a lot.
This is a point to go on a very short break. We'll be back.
See you.
The Celestial Perspective Podcast, bringing you a fresh perspective on the Celestial Church of Christ.
Welcome back, everybody. So we were talking about something that we can't just brush over, and I honestly cannot wrap my mind around it. You said 40,000 for the family of a shepherd who passes away. 40,000 naira. Tell us your own personal experience when you lost your dad.
My personal experience when I lost my dad, we were given 35,000 naira. And, we took the news to the office, blah, blah, blah. And they told the province to arrange for us.
And you said the 35,000 wasn't even from the...
My father was the first person that laid an altar at Mowe, Bafo, and Environ. Our church is about 40 years now. So he's not... so he's not somebody can just brush aside. But when it has been on stroke, he has been paralyzed for about 15 years that we have been neglected. And that is what made me more passionate about the lives of shepherd, because the judgment that was meted to my father was so bad.
And sadly, this is the case for many shepherds, because this is just a microcosm of what we have on the...
Definitely.
Now, what I see is a lot of people, digging down or zooming into shepherds and their moral and, their perceived moral decadence and, all forms of ills that a lot of shepherds engage in. But nobody's talking about the pressures.
Yeah, when something is wrong in the church, the shepherd is who people will first abuse.
pressures.
A video goes viral, the first comment you see,
shepherd.
the shepherd is not training them well. Somebody drinks alcohol in church, the shepherd. Somebody dances, the shepherd.
But sir, don't you think the shepherd should be held responsible for his flock?
Definitely, the shepherd should be held responsible for his flocks, and the shepherds should be well taken care of as they are being bashed too. There are some things that happen in church that the shepherd is not even aware of.
Now, would we say, I know that nobody should be excused for wrongdoing, but can we categorically blame shepherds when they are driven into vices because of certain lacks or inadequacies in terms of resources or finance? For instance, we've seen or we've heard of a lot of shepherds who engage in fraud, some who give false messages also that they can feed themselves. I know it's quite easy or some of them who engage in spiritual works for fraudsters, or for
commercial
people who
sex workers.
or commercial sex workers. It's quite easy to say that this shepherd is paganist in ideology, or this shepherd is not worthy to be a shepherd. But these are one of the issues that we must discuss. Has lack or scarcity or paucity of resources led to some of these misbehaviors by shepherds?
Well, I want to say this point blank. No matter what you're facing, going into vices, things that are not morally supported, should never be the way out.
Never be the case.
Before we become shepherds, in fact, before we become Christians, we're first a member of a family.
Yes.
So definitely, each family, each background has what is called ethics. So when things are not, even before you even quote the Bible, there are some things that ethics tells you not to do. So you engaging or you calling people, giving them false messages because you're hungry just shows the kind of person you are. As a person, not as a shepherd. It shows the kind of person you are as who you are, not as being a shepherd.
Because many shepherds will say, I wanted to pay the school fees of my children, and because there's no program by the church to cater for these things. There are churches, before you say something, sir, there are churches that have scholarship programs for the children of pastors.
Definitely.
There are churches that have special programs even for shepherds or shepherds' wives and all these things. And now, it could be an excuse. Allow me to be the devil's advocate here. So, and a shepherd can easily say, look, I did these things because I was hungry.
Let me give you a personal instance. I'm a shepherd. Okay. So I'm a perfect example. You can always, I live outside the church. In fact, very far away from the church, because I want my children to grow, to know me as a father, not as a shepherd. I want my children to, I don't want them to have this Aika mindset. So I rented an apartment very far from the church, and I can tell you for the past 3 months, my rent has been due and I've not been able to pay it. Wow. And do you know, I have people in my church who are well-to-do that I can easily call, but I can easily give false message too that, God said you should do this and bring money. But, I will not do it because number one, I don't know what might happen tomorrow. And I'm not somebody that loves to bother people with my own personal need because they are human like me. Now, I'll wait on God. I've put it in prayer. I've told God, if you want this thing, and if you want me to move back to one room in church, there's no problem. And I believe God is going to make a way. Definitely. So, I could have gone that way, but I didn't. And the house rent is still there. It's still not paid.
Now, about this, we are in a church where most of our ministers are full-time ministers. In aberration to other churches where most of their pastors have a side hustle. Some of them are even directors in companies, in firms, in banks. Some of them are lawyers, practicing lawyers, practicing doctors.
Yeah.
But in Celestial Church, we have a church where majorly to become a minister in this church is almost, assured that you would have to be 100% minister, forsaking everything or any skill that you must have had before. Now, would we say that there's a biblical precedence for this? Say like Paul, who was a tent maker, who doubled as a tent maker. So why is it that our shepherds and our workers in the vine are full-time ministers? Why can't they sort themselves out? Or at least before they became ministers, certain skills that they must have had, why just shove that away, in the closet?
Now, I'm going to answer you in two ways. The first way is celestial shepherds might not be able to work because, number one, there is a spiritual obligation that says you have to be in church jingling the bell every 3 hours and you have to share the grace.
Mm.
Every 3 hours, the bell in your church must
Every
sound.
three
And
hours.
this,
Three
this
hours,
has to be
that's-
done by the shepherd.
Now, there are parishes that the shepherd cannot afford an assistant, just like I'm saying.
Okay.
He can't afford to even have church workers because what he himself is seeing cannot even feed him, talk less of
So
the workers.
if such a shepherd
Now-
is a vulcanizer, for instance, what
Yeah.
stops him from
From leaving
you know-
a customer's tire at the middle of work, he leaves a customer's tire and runs back to church.
But I feel
Now-
like there'll always be workers. in
Now,
the church.
secondly,
Are there churches
I
without
need you
workers?
relax.
Okay.
Secondly, there is something that makes a shepherd. The moment you receive ordination, you go from an ordinary man to being a king. The moment you receive that anointment, you become a king. Now, even in the real sense, there are some people that they have been given spiritual messages that they can't walk under somebody, that they have to start their own thing. Now,
Yes.
the moment you become a shepherd, you become the top of these things. You are not somebody just call. Kunle, wa lora kini kan wá fún mi.
But some people would say that that's some form of deception. Because there are pastors in other denominations. Would we say those ones are not called by God too? Or are they not
we
kings?
say they're not kings.
Because,
In other denominations,
Okay.
in other denominations, they close the door of their churches. Some of these denominations rent apartments to run their churches.
Or
The Celestial
auditoriums.
Church of Christ is a church that has no door. It should not be closed at any point
At any
because
point
they
in
can
time.
bring a sick person and you're at work, working. They brought a pregnant woman who is laboring and they said, oh, you have to pray for this person. Or they brought a mad person to church and they said, Olùṣọ́ ti lọ síbi iṣẹ́. Olùṣọ́ wà níbi iṣẹ́. Olùṣọ́ máa dé ìrọ̀lẹ́, ẹ ní sùúrù, ẹ dá aláìsàn dúró ní church. In Celestial Church of Christ, other denomination comes to our church to beg for alms.
What kind
My
of
church,
arms?
money. My church is located around Redemption Camp. My church is in Mowe. And when Redeem finishes their congress or whatever they do every month, they will trek down, those of them who cannot afford to go back to Lagos, they trek down to our church. Sir, we need money. We need your help. I came for camp. I came from program at camp and we used to do it. And in fact, it has become an habit. Whenever I say, I want your inbox, because they know I love listening to the preaching of Baba Debe, I want your Olùṣọ́mbọ̀. We have to give them. Now tell me, these are the obligations of a shepherd in Celestial Church of Christ to be available 24/7. Now, back to your question. Why can't we have a side hustle? We are not, I spoke with somebody, the Akeju of the blessed memory, when Shepherd Lives Matters campaign started. He told me to pull down the hashtag, that it could spite violence, because we were actually planning a protest. We were planning a whole lot of things. So I said, okay, no problem. And I told him, he said, there is a lot in the hands of the authority to attend to that they may not be able to take care of shepherds or to give them whatever they need.
So which means that on our priority list as a church, shepherds' lives is
It doesn't
quite
really matter.
inconsequential.
Even the anointment of shepherds are more expensive than the anointment of ordinary members.
Should anointment cost money in the first place?
It does.
Now, you mentioned somebody that I used to know very well of blessed memory, Akeju, and he was in a very, at some point, he was in, I think, in part of the administration.
Definitely.
And so there were certain, I would say, controversies, that I was privy to the information at the time. Now, it brings me to the question. Can a shepherd who is not popular, who does not have funds, so to speak, but who is qualified to be posted to a big parish, can he be posted to that big parish based on merit, without greasing palms, without knowing somebody in the high places? These are questions that, because there are a lot of allegations.
I'll say this to the camera, and I'll say it for a record. Nothing happens on merit in Celestial Church of Christ.
That's a bold statement, sir.
Yes, I'm going to stand by it 100 times more.
Are you trying to say there's some sort of
Nothing.
corruption?
I wouldn't call it corruption.
Okay.
If you call it, you use the term. There shouldn't be corruption in the house of God.
What should
But-
be the word?
Well, I would say I wouldn't use a denotative word. I'll say man, no man.
Okay, can
You
you,
know-
can you just give
Yeah.
us the next few minutes elucidating this, sir?
Yes, because even when you are super good, when people, there are shepherds in this church that we know that are very good.
Mm.
But once you have issues with somebody at the office, they will downgrade you to nothing.
Okay, so can the word
Personal issues,
be... Okay.
personal beefs.
Can the word be politics?
Yeah. Let's use spiritual politics.
Politics. Politics is and sir, you
There's-
mentioned a statement that shepherds should have a side hustle. So are you trying to tell
Should
us
not.
that
No. His argument was shepherds
my
should not.
argument
Have.
was shepherds should
Cannot.
not.
No, he
Cannot.
said that
But
statement,
they,
that
there are some things in the church right now that I believe shepherds can invest on personally without you working under somebody or without you opening a shop for it.
No, I'm trying to pick your words and say your words as they were. You said shepherds should have a side hustle. So are you trying to tell us now that the gospel, the church, the ministry is a hustle on its own?
It's not a hustle.
Okay.
I said side hustle, which means you are facing the gospel while you are doing something which is hustle by the side.
Okay, think about it.
Now, something like let's think about it. Celestial Church of Christ doesn't have a production perfume company
On incense.
on its own or an incense company.
Okay, should the church be considered a business strategy?
The church can bring in a business mindset to grow financially its workers. Imagine me having a perfume company, like with the little I save, then I knew how to make perfumes. I make perfumes for my harvest. I make perfume for churches that wants to do anything, but I don't have the what's it called? The capital to do it big. Now, imagine me doing it big and employing some of my church members to work with me. That is, I'm elevating some of my church members financially as I'm elevating myself.
There is an administrative
Do you
side
understand?
and there is a business side to every organization. Even
Definitely.
if it would be it a church or a mosque or an NGO or the government. There has to be an administrative side and there can be a business side. I know of the Catholic Church. Most of the materials that they use are produced by the
Definitely.
Catholic Church.
Even
Yeah.
Jehovah Witness.
And so
There are
are
Watchtower
people-
publications that are produced by them.
there are people in the employ of this church who earn a living because there are certain things being produced in the church. We are a church that is based on a lot of materials. We use oil,
Candles,
we use candle,
Definitely.
perfume,
we use
Definitely.
perfumes and all
Miss
that.
Barry.
And we
some of
buy all
that.
these things from
Even
outside.
garments.
The people producing perfumes are not even celestial.
So
surprised
what-
me when I discovered that Miss Paris is not a Nigerian
It's not
product.
a Nigerian product.
And I am
And
certain
it is
that
the
the
most
market
used
of Miss
market.
Paris, the major
It's
market
celestial.
Yes.
is Celestial
I
Church
feel
of
like they should
Christ.
come to
See,
Nigeria.
in my church, we use as much as 5 big perfumes per Sunday. That's about 2,500 naira per one, and that's because my church is
Wow.
still few in number.
5.
I know
That's it.
I've worshipped in a church that they used more than 10, 15
Yes.
per Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
We used turari to the tune of 10, 12,000 naira per Sunday. And don't forget, I told you we make about, let's say we make 20,000,
So this
25,000.
business that you're talking about, sir, don't you think the church would like to centralize it and not allow the shepherds to have shareholdings?
You can only centralize something that you build on. And that might even take us to another topic, because most of our parishes, we have more landlord shepherds than transfer shepherds.
No.
Which means in my church, if I'm a landlord shepherd, I can do whatever I want with my church's name.
So are you a landlord shepherd or
I'm not.
transfer? Okay.
I'm not a landlord shepherd. I'm not a trans. I'm just a worker for God.
Well, you said your dad built.
Yeah, my dad built doesn't make me the landlord.
Okay.
That brings us to the succession.
Okay.
I was about to talk about this, but I'm glad that my co-host,
Yeah.
has mentioned this succession.
Mm.
When it comes to shepherdship in Celestial Church, I have found in many cases whereby many shepherds have a parish or build a parish and then build a second parish and then have their son, one of their sons, lead this parish. To the point of they have like 4 or 5 parishes, and in each parish is a son,
The children.
their
Mm.
children leading the each of the parishes. Now, many have said, and they would use this Yoruba adage, wípé ojú olójó lè dàbí ojú ẹni. Can we say that this is the perfect plan of God for a celestial Church of Christ? With the uh, with the events surrounding the descent of this church and how God has raised people in the time past who later became shepherds. Is this a right thing?
If we are to challenge shepherds' sons
Mm.
succeeding their father, then we are to challenge the authority of the church. Baba OSHOFFA's children succeeding their father too.
It's just one child so far.
And another will be there.
What if the next person is not an
Yeah,
OSHOFFA?
let's wait till then.
No, we can't say Baba
No.
OSHOFFA's children succeeded him.
Let's wait
Because we
till
have
let's
just one person.
let's wait till then.
I'm
not interested.
I don't think a conclusion should come.
No, I'm not.
should
No,
come to that yet.
I'm not concluding that because
Okay.
when you fight or when you say, "Oh, why is this person there?"
Let
they'll tell you,
me ask you a difficult question.
Okay.
Sir.
Okay.
Is Celestial Church or the pastorship of Celestial Church, is it an OSHOFFA dynasty?
Is it? Well, I'm not the best person to answer
ask
that. Yeah, but lately we've seen a whole lot of things. We've seen somebody becomes the shepherd of a particular parish
Mm.
because their father is so person.
Mm.
We've seen somebody do this and they tell you, "Oh, it is." We've heard. I don't want to quote people.
So which
We've
means
heard. No, now I'm not using that to justify
Yeah.
a shepherd's child succeeding his father.
Okay, because
In fact, I'll say a shepherd's child succeeding his father is carrying more burdens. Somebody like me taking over my father's church, I took over nothing.
For instance, a child who is not called
Now
by
you
God.
can say hello. You can say a church like KOK, and you say the shepherd's child succeeded him. He succeeded something. Now, I would prefer a shepherd. Now, tell me, we are talking about a shepherd's child who got a calling. I'm talking about those who are called now. Whether you are called or not, I'm not the judge of that.
Yes. Nobody is.
I don't
actually.
even know if God calls you or he doesn't call you. I
Yeah.
only know myself and I can only confirm myself.
Yes.
Now, let's use an example that somebody built a church and God really called you and God called his children. Now, and it's difficult for that father to buy probably another land or anything. Or now this child went to seminary, graduated. Tell me, how many churches does the Celestial Church of Christ administration build for shepherds who are graduating from seminary? None.
I said this on one of our former episodes, and I'm saying it again. I think personally that we have too many parishes.
Definitely. So now they are not building parishes, but they are registering shepherds every day. They are giving people superior evangelists every year.
I was with our producer yesterday, and it was during the evening service as we drove by. That church is very small to the point where the shop
In
that they are
Lagos
using
here. In Lagos here.
in this area, sir.
This area.
And now you are
The
now
shop that
tell
they are
me,
using is
tell me,
only the candle stands that can stay there and the altar. Everybody is on the slab that the government made to adjoin the road.
It might be a prayer
and
center. Are you
It's not
sure?
a prayer.
It's
They were
church.
holding a Friday evening service
No.
Oh my
that started
God.
by 6 p.m.
if that could happen in Lagos, tell me what could happen in a place like Oshogbo, Ekiti.
Mm.
Tell me the kind of churches or parishes you find there. Tell me the kind of state or situation they will be. We went to visit somebody during the Shepherd Lives Matter campaign. It brought me to tears. His church has been demolished. This man has no house. His children had to go and squat with their friends. This man, somebody gave him a shop to be sleeping in. We went there. Somebody called our attention and we went there. We saw this shepherd. He brought out all his returns receipt.
And this is not to even talk about shepherds that have a lot of health conditions.
Definitely.
Some of them are diabetic, some of them are hypertensive, some of them are
My father lived
survived
15 years
stroke.
on stroke. 15 years on stroke.
Do you think we should be sentimental about the fact that they are shepherds and the church has to cater for them?
The church is in a place to cater for them because number one, any organization, Celestial Church of Christ is registered, right? I think it's registered under Corporate Affairs Commission. It has the
Yes,
name was
under the
registered,
CAC,
so
yes.
it is a standard organization.
Yes.
Now, every organization that has more than 5,000 workers, in fact, every organization that has more than 100 workers should have a plan for whoever is working there.
I agree, sir.
And that will bring us to the solution when the time comes.
Okay. Now, before we go on our short break, we're discussing Shepherd Lives Matter. So, Shepherd's lives matter. Okay. The grammar has to be correct.
Yeah, it has
On
to be.
point.
Yes. Recently there was an issue in a particular parish, I think in Aja. I might not know the specificities of what I'm talking about, but I know the shepherd. I
Yeah.
met him once before while I
Yeah.
was a little boy. We used to call him Olusho Aso.
Olusho Aso, yes.
He was beaten,
Yeah,
I
remember.
up to an inch of his life because of a false accusation. Now, can you tell us a little about this and what ensued as a result of this?
Yes, we've seen a lot of criticisms, even from our fellow Celestials, that some people said, were they meant to park a sock away in the midnight? Some people said, was it meant to be that the shepherd has something he's hiding? And I told them.
So he got a private contractor to empty the
to
cesspit,
empty
the cesspit.
Yes.
And the contractor
It
fell.
fell.
And this happened in the middle of the night.
Yes, and the assistant shepherd was even trying to rescue the person, fell too.
Fell into the same
Fell
ditch.
into the same pit. But unfortunately, the person died.
The
and
contractor died. The private
contractor
contractor
died, and the assistant was hospitalized. So the word was out that he used the private contractor, that he used them for rituals.
Don't you think it is suspicious to have walked in the midnight?
It is not. I've lived in rented apartments
They call
before.
them night soil men.
I've lived in
Okay.
rented houses before. Such practices are mostly done
In the night.
midnight because
Yes.
of the smell.
Yes.
Okay.
So with people saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have that," I would just sit down and be like, "Come on, it has happened in my church before, but the person did not die, unfortunately."
So how did he get to the point where he was beaten?
Yes, private contractor was an Aboki man.
Okay.
And his fellow Aboki people, they don't hear words.
Right.
They just came, attacked the church, looted things from the church, and somebody just came. A blogger came and said, "Oh, they were trying to use
That
the
body
man for a
parts were
ritual.
missing.
That body parts were
So,
missing.
sir, can you confirm?
No body parts was missing.
Okay.
Babaso was an upright person, a good person.
What gives
I
you
can
this
attest to
level
that.
of assurance?
I have
that
because
no
I
body parts was missing.
we have the assurance. The police came out and released the press statement
that no
that
body
they
parts.
did autopsy and no body part was missing.
Okay.
So it was a false accusation.
So what did the Celestial Administrative Body do as a result of this? Are there charges being pressed?
They put the picture of one blogger on their blogs. They win the CCC and Real Celestials and Co. That we should start looking for the person. They were cyberbullying. Come on, you need
It
to
should be
come
deeper
up
than
with
this.
Yes.
Cyberbullying is not what we...
In fact, I'm thinking of a situation where we can have shepherds union.
Do we have the
Union
bloggers-
where
bloggers
shepherds, if
picture?
the authority cannot,
don't.
they do. Them bloggers do. They have the picture of the first
Our
man.
bloggers.
They know the person.
Our
Yes,
bloggers,
the
do you?
first man that carried the news.
So bloggers.
And the second lady that
And
carried the
there was
news.
a
They
lady.
have
see
both
it,
pictures. They have both pictures.
Sir,
The bloggers have both pictures.
Wow.
I think even deeper than the cyberbullying or the cyber
Legal
attacks,
action should be
I
taken.
believe that
there
judicial
should be
action should be taken.
legal
Because
steps
that's how
taken.
people learn. If you don't take
Definitely.
action,
What if he had died?
I'm telling you,
Gone.
we would
They'll
have
give his family
lost
40,000
a
naira.
pious, iconic
What
shepherd.
if in the
in
context
CCC?
of the man falling into the pit, something broke in his body and was actually missing?
So are you trying to say
Only
that
God
there was
knows.
a missing body part?
There was none.
No.
I was
Okay.
just saying, what if
Okay.
it has happened like that? They will say definitely
Okay.
he used the man.
We
I
promise that at
understand.
this juncture we'll go on a break. So let's keep our
Thank you.
promise.
All
We'll be
right.
back shortly.
See you.
The Celestial Perspective Podcast, bringing you a fresh perspective on the Celestial Church of Christ.
Welcome back. Sir, if we continue from today to tomorrow, we cannot exhaust the unique challenges that our shepherds face. So we can't keep talking about the problems. We have to talk about the solutions too.
Definitely.
And there was a particular news that I heard whereby there was a 5% rule that was introduced by the church administration. Can you tell us something about that? And if it has helped the situation of our shepherds in this church?
Yeah, they told us to the new idea was for every parishes to remit 5% of their monthly what they see, apart from the 1/3 of what you make, you still remit another 5%. And when I heard that, I'm sorry to say, I think it's when you are in need, probably when the person is ill or in needs an urgent help. So probably they will ask you for the receipts of the 5% you send. But now it might work for some parishes who make a lot of money. Just like I said, there are some parishes that makes as low as 7,000 naira in a Sunday. And that 7,000 naira doesn't even cover for fuel. Doesn't cover for the things they use. So most times, a lot of shepherds that are watching me knows that many shepherds are paying monthly returns to K2 from their personal pockets.
How's that even a thing?
Okay, does that mean that there's a kind of consequence or punishment for not remitting?
Yeah, if you don't remit to K2, you cannot get anointment.
So they make
you cannot be promoted. You cannot get anything from the church.
They make up for the money.
Yeah, they needed to. They need
from their own pockets.
Yes, a lot of shepherds that are watching me right now will know, and they can confirm this.
So before you go on, the 5% that is remitted, is it from the church remission or the shepherds?
All the general money you make in a month, maybe you make 200,000. You first of all remove 5%, then you now share the remaining
5% goes to the headquarters.
The headquarters.
And so what's this money used
for?
So
they call it welfare for your shepherd, which I don't know.
So that 5% from this parish is
allocated.
Kept for the shepherd of that
parish.
In case if something goes wrong.
And now it is not that you have an account with the headquarter which belongs to your shepherd. There's no sorting number, there's no sorting code, there is no serial number.
So what if this particular shepherd aids this church to give 5% for 3 years, and he leaves this particular parish and has a stroke?
And that is why I call it. I'm not permitted to use that word online, but I'm not going to hold back. It is more or less like a spiritual fraud. Yes, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm standing by my words. I'm standing by it. So why couldn't there be? I once visited a shepherd, Baba Shofora of Sharon Parish.
I think I know him.
I and my team, Comfort Kiki, Baba Kiki's daughter, who's now in UK, and one of our colleagues, we went to visit Baba Shofora in church during this campaign, and we went to solicit for help. And he sat down with us, and he said he had about over 40 workers in his church. Now, when somebody has over 40 workers and you split their monthly money into 3, do you think 1/3 can feed 40 workers, talk less of the shepherd?
That church has to be as big as, I don't know, like as big as a city.
Now, he said he has an insurance policy for all his workers. They are registered with a particular notable insurance company. That if anything should happen to any of his workers, they are entitled to some millions.
Them or their family?
Their family, probably there is demise or anything, their family can collect some millions of naira.
Okay.
Now, if that could happen for a parish,
at a parish level,
why can't Celestial Church of Christ? I told you, my registration number is 15,000 something. I won't tell you my actual is big so that they will not go and pull my file. My registration number is 15,000 something. And I was registered 10 years ago.
So now it's probably
doubled. Tell me, it can't even be double, because the rate at which people get calls now is triple the rate of when we had it. Yes.
Wow.
So now you tell me what the numbers will be now. Now, if a church that has over 30,000 workers cannot register with, let's say, AECO Insurance or a notable insurance company, let every shepherd has a file. Let us have a serial number how we can pay our insurance fee. Give it to our children. I will be happy to be paying insurance fee for my father because I know whenever anything happens to him, I will be at rest. Why can't we do something like that? Are there people at the office sabotaging this thing?
Now, we have gotten to the point where we have to start discussing the solutions. If you were in position to make certain enactments, tell me the first three things that you would do.
Number one, I'll look for the first 1,000 shepherds in Celestial Church of Christ.
What do you mean by the first?
The first registered 1,000 shepherds.
What if they're no more?
All of them couldn't be no more. My father was 700 and something. He died 2 years ago. He has family. He has a wife. He has a widow. He left.
So what happens?
Look for the first 1,000 shepherds. Check their state of living. Is it up to the standard? When the root is destroyed, some of these old shepherds are causing the church. Some of them are not living well, and their state of living is laying a curse on this church.
Even without them saying
Even without them saying it. Even without them saying it. Look for the first 1,000 registered shepherds. Compensate them. If it is 200,000 naira each, just give to their family, like, okay, for a job well done. That's number one. Number two, I'm still talking about that. Number two, let me say number 1A. Let us have a credible insurance and health policy.
Is that number 2 or number 1B?
Number 1A. Number 1B, rather.
Okay.
Let's have a credible.
Is it for the 1,000?
No, not for the 1,000. For everyone now. Somebody like me now.
Okay.
I said I became a full-time shepherd 12 years ago. Now, if I've been paying insurance fee, if I've been partnering with an insurance company, and I'm still going to do this job, God knows, maybe for the next 70 years, and I partnered with an insurance company for 70 years, how much do you think Zion, who's my daughter, would be collecting when something happens to me? Now, let's have a credible, even if it is 2,000 naira, a shepherd can afford per month to be paying, even from his own pocket. Definitely, if the church is not giving us money, we have 1 or 2 people that comes to church and say, Olusho Egba. Your church patron can say, Olusho, move me 5,000 leni. Your this thing, Olusho, I give you this now.
This envelope and that envelope.
Yeah, definitely. So from that, personally, you can do it. And for that initiative of what's it called? Of pension, of insurance to work, the word needs to get down to a lot of people. There are some informations you pass. See, some province head don't go to meetings. Some province head will hear information, get to meeting, and say another thing.
Honest truth is, there's no incentivization for unregistered shepherds to be registered, because the registered ones
are not getting any benefits. Definitely.
Benefit.
So when we have this, recruit young people. Let us make an advert. Let's make an advert for you as a shepherd, that if you are paying this thing, this is how your end is going to be. This is what you let them
sensitize
know.
them.
Definitely. Let them
Convince
know.
them. Let them see reasons
Now,
why.
Recruit people. Let them go to rural areas with no social media. Let them go. Let them tell them about this thing. Give them a sort code, something they can just dial on their phone, and that money is deducted immediately. And they send them a confirmation that your insurance money for the month of January has been removed.
If a shepherd knows that if anything happens to him, his family will be well taken care of,
definitely,
I don't think that he would hold back.
That is it.
From making such contributions. So where are we? 1B?
That is 1B.
Okay.
And that is number 1.
Okay.
Second point.
Number 2. There has to be involvement of young people in this church administration. And when I say involvement, I'm not talking about because somebody is the son of Baba Faponda, you have to employ him to the office. Or because somebody is the son of Baba Enrile.
Yes.
You have to put him in the office.
Speaking about young people, are you saying young educated people or young person?
Educated professionals? We have people who are bankers before they became a shepherd.
Correct.
If they can't work at the bank anymore, employ them to the administration.
To the service of the church.
Definitely. I used to be a graphic designer. I used to create content and a whole lot of that. I do it for my church. Every Sunday, at least I'll post a flyer and they'll say, it looks good. I use my Canva. I'm not lobbying for posts in the administration. In fact, me and them, we can't be on the same page because I'm so troublesome for them. Now, employ people who are young, vibrant, educated to that particular field. Let there be an involvement. Let there be an engagement. So don't just say because somebody is the son of so, we have to put him here. Because somebody is the son of so, we have to put him here. It's killing the church.
All right, sir. Do you mean the elders are not capable of handling
The
those
elders
positions?
have done beautifully well. They are our fathers.
You see,
But
Okay.
Yoruba people used to say, Aja iwoyi, lo mo iworo iwoyi le.
Okay.
You cannot
can we try and
deal.
translate that? Anybody in the house?
Yeah,
The
you
dog-
cannot
Aja Iwoyi
deal.
lo mo ehoro Iwoyi.
Yes,
The
it
dog
is
of
a
a
now.
contemporary dog
Yes.
that can chase a contemporary rabbit.
Bo-
Definitely.
A round of
because
applause for me.
because
A round of applause for the chief host.
a dog of 1947 cannot chase
A rabbit of
2023. So the way things are done during the days of our fathers, the way things are done, you cannot see. There are Gen Z shepherds now.
True.
There are Gen Z shepherds now. There are Gen Z church members.
Mm.
People that will come to church like, oh, this is what I come to church for. And they will stand on it.
True.
And they'll say there's nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
I seen somebody that says, "Don't mark with Jehovah Jesus Christ, Olùṣọ́, òun ò ní pe Michael mọ́, kí ló dé tó máa pe Michael mímọ́ ṣàdúrà o?"
In fact, that's a topic for another day.
That's it. You know, they want explanation for everything.
Yes.
They want it.
An inquisition or having an inquisitive mind is not a crime.
It's not a crime. Definitely, they want to know more things.
Just a question.
Yeah, so they want to ask questions. Ibo lọ́lọ́run ti sọ pé ká má ṣe kíní kan. Ibo lọ́lọ́run ti sọ pé ká má ṣe kíní kan. And you sit down and be like, daddy mi ò kọ́ mi léléyìí.
Bí wọ́n ṣe sọ fún wa
So
nìyẹn.
now, if you don't,
Ìlànà ni.
ìlànà rẹ̀. So if you don't
Hallelujah.
employ or bring in people that can actually tackle the challenges of today, the church will continue to be backward.
And just talking to what my co-host said, this is not a matter of whether the elders have done things right. Or
By the way,
not.
this thing is
not.
very beautiful.
Oh,
Thank
Yeah,
you
let
very
me
much.
just
It's from-
pause and
By-
appreciate this.
body
By one of our
health
sponsors.
baskets by Body Secrets. Thank you
Yeah,
so much,
yes,
sir.
Okay, I hope this is not a free advert actually.
We'll pay you, sir.
I finished my own since it shows how good it is.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank
Alright.
you.
You know, coming back to what we're talking
No,
about
that
first.
is my number 2. I don't
Yes.
know if you have questions on
Sir,
that.
do you let my
Yeah,
chief
I was
host-
about to say that it really doesn't have much to do with whether the elders have done their bit or not. In every organization, most especially in the kingdom of God, there is always a stratosphere of responsibilities. You know, like we have in was it in Numbers, where the young people were fighting the war. Moses and the elders were on the mountain.
Yeah, they were
Moses
raising hands.
raised his hand
Yeah.
and he began to get weak.
Yeah,
And
so
the
everybody
elders,
has their parts.
Aaron and Aaron held his
Just like my church patron used to say. We
Moses-
are in the 4th generation of Celestial Church of Christ.
Okay.
The first generation were Baba OSHOFFAs and all.
Mm.
The second generation, he knows the names of all these babas.
Mm.
Now, we are like the 5th generation. There are some generation coming after us.
Mm.
So if we don't tackle their
Problems.
present challenges with the present solutions, we may have issues.
So you can see that according to this illustration, this biblical illustration of Numbers, Moses and Aaron, the old men, could not go down, to the valley to
Yes.
fight the war, but they were on top of the mountain doing what God asked them to do.
Definitely.
That was their responsibility. Was the
Definitely.
responsibility of the young people to fight the
Definitely.
battles.
Definitely.
So I think one of the problems in our church is we can't recognize what should be responsibilities that should be chiefly carried out by the young people.
by the young people.
you know,
even to
supervised by
the
old
tune of
people.
transfer, you transfer there are some level of shepherds that can be transferred to some parishes because they believe they are not old enough to head that parish.
Has that
Which
got
I'm
much to do with
thinking
age?
age shouldn't even be a criteria
Right.
of being a shepherd of a